Hello and welcome to another live stream, and this is what I'll be painting today. It is an arm. Specifically, it is an arm for this model, the very large Ork Stompa, pretty much the size of my face. We've looked at this on live stream a couple of times before. We've done the jaw, we've done the Ultramarines panel there, a few other things, but we need to get the arms done. And one of those arms is the close combat arm, the stabby arm, the chainsaw, and there's a couple of shooters, engine-y thing, fuel tank, all of these pneumatics. Should be fun to get done. So I've got some plans and we'll see what the chat over the course of the next couple of hours has to say. Oop, excuse me. But first, before I get back into painting this, I need to address something from last episode, and that is that my brushes abandoned me and decided to fray up horribly, and so I've been soaking them in a cleaning solution. And we shall see how effective that has been. It certainly comes to a point if I try to make it to a point, but the question is not does it come to a point, the question is does it stay at a point. This one, same story. Good news to start with. Do want to make sure I get rid of all of that cleaning stuff off of it so it doesn't contaminate the paint. Shouldn't be a problem, but just like to be sure of these things. So, there we go. A couple of newly sharp brushes. Newly cleaned sharp brushes. And that can go in my drain pot. Hello, Foxy Mitts. How you doing? Yes, we get to do some more of the Stompa. Wasn't it your idea to do the hazard stripes on the jaw? Anyway, whose ever idea it was, we've got a few bits here and there going. Room has it that I have actually bought a new brush. I'm not going to use it on the Stompa, but next week, depending on what I paint, there's a good chance that I'll be using my new brush. This cable. This cable is broken. It's still kind of attached. Yeah, I hear you have the plague. Hopefully you're doing well. Get well soon, and all of that. Just rest, relax, and all the rest of it. I have not started my new job. That is next month. They do every month they do a cycle of new applicants, and this month was full, so I'm on next month's. So I start my training, I think, in 3 weeks' time. Regardless, I've a bit of a wait before I actually get stuck in, which is fine because I get to paint models for the next few weeks. Ha ha ha. Let's make sure we get a sensible focus. That'll do. So we've got some, obviously I've dry brushed a lot of metal all over this, and I've picked out some of the armor plates in green. The whole Stompa is of course mostly green. I wanted to vary it as much as I could with metallics and like little bits of other colours. Heroes World, hi, how you doing? And yes, the plague swept through the house. Need a big red X on the door and bells so that we can shout unclean, unclean. Stay away, yeah. Well, hopefully all goes well for you and the little ones. I actually do have a new green. I think I've had this on one of the previous live streams. Given how much green I paint, I was inevitably going to need a new green. But there is. There's plenty of opportunity to fill out some more armor panels with this new green, just to add some variety. Yeah, from what I've used of this green, it mixes really nicely, but just by itself, it doesn't cover all that green in one layer. But that's fine. We can let this dry and give it another. This sounds familiar. I swear this was on the this track was on the YouTube library. Maybe it's a cover. Is that a Forge World Stompa, or does Games Workshop actually make it? Well, Forge World is Games Workshop. I assume you mean Citadel. From what I understand, this is a plastic kit for certain. So from what I understand, this is a Citadel kit, and it's also relatively old, although I think it is still available. Yeah, this was my co-host on Back to the Brush podcast. Ratman got this for me a little while back, more for fun than anything else. But he got it fairly cheap on, I think it was on the Facebook Marketplace near him. It's missing all of the crew. The original Stompa kit came with a bunch of grots and stuff that you can hang off of it, and they were all missing. That's fine. I've got grots. I've got 2nd edition grots. I've got all sorts. That's no problem. It was also missing the shoulder pad. Yeah, so it's supposed to have, like, over one shoulder, it's supposed to have this like gantry with a kind of a little turret on it, an armored gun turret, and that was missing. But that's fine because it's an Ork vehicle. It's supposed to be kit bashed and modified and so on and so forth. And so, what I am planning to do, or what I'm in the process of doing, is I want to get it painted as kind of as it is. So I've fixed up a lot of the gaps and all the rest of it, and I want to paint it up kind of as it sits. And then once that's done, I will come back to it and add on the Grok crew, add on weapon towers and rockets, and like cut into the front of it to add a belly gun, that kind of thing. But yeah, just paint it as it is, and then once that's done, I can worry about like making the odd little modification. It's sort of a very orky thing that you build it and then you modify it for the rest of eternity. Just every time you see it, it's a little bit different. Need grots, hoping Puppets War does sometime soon. I don't know who or what Puppets War is. I mean, if you just want generic, like Gretchen and goblins and stuff, there's a billion options for goblins. Like every wargame company and their cat makes a goblin of some description. Well, that answers that question. We got, what did we get? 12 minutes in, and my brush is starting to fray apart. Here as well, it says they make awesome minis, but now they're doing a 3D print Patreon. Ah, right, okay. I mean, if you just go on Thingiverse and type in goblins, you will get options. But yeah, it's nice to have a more professionally made option, because they, generally speaking, have more detail. It's not always true. Foxymitz wants me to use the new brush on the Stompa. No, never. The rumoured new brush will make its appearance next week when I paint a nicer, well, not nicer, but when I paint a model that needs the detail and finesse of that brush. Until then, I can manage. I mean, look at that. I can glaze with this brush still. Just going to try I can work out where the higher points will be, because it's kind of at this kind of angle, so kind of from the camera's point of view, that's the top. I will be coming back with some edge highlighting, of course, as is tradition. How much do you see of the back? I have the rest of the Stompa to hand so that I can fit the arm, and I can see that's how it sits, and then yeah, you can't really see the back unless you look from the underneath, kind of like that's sort of what you'd be looking at most of the time. Yeah. So I probably don't need to worry about that side because that would be the underneath. This is kind of the back, so I'll at least give this some detail. Just a little. Yeah, but if the cleaner didn't work like I wanted it to, perhaps acetone is the answer for these brushes. Right, let's get some of the piping. Part of the idea to mix up colours in this model includes just adding some random bright colour wherever it makes sense to add some bright colour. I was about to say if anyone can guess what colours I'm going to do this cabling in, but you can literally see the colour that I'm going to use on screen because I put it on my cutting mat. So no prizes for that. Unfortunately, I dropped the cleaner I'm using. I dropped a splash of it just before the stream, and I used this my kitchen roll to dry it up. Unfortunately, that now means that my kitchen roll for my brush is soaking wet. As I've done several hundred times probably on stream already, so I probably don't need to mention it again, but I'm going to, is when painting yellow paints, the common pigments aren't very good. Very thin, poor coverage. However, if you underpaint with pink, the shades of the pink, particularly the pigments in them, give just a bit of backlighting. Not backlighting, that's not quite the right way to think of it. But the opacity of the yellow means you can actually sort of see the pink through it. And what that does is the kind of the yellow acts as a filter and makes a really bright yellow. And in the case of the pink and yellow I've got, it is a really good combination for that. Maybe nick downstairs and get a fresh bit of kitchen roll. Nah, that requires effort, and I'd have to pause the stream. And I mean, I've never used my yellow. Smells very strange. Almost metallic. Not like moldy, but like... Odd. And there you go, just with one layer of yellow on top of one layer of pink, and you get a nice vibrant yellow. So this one, the big cabling can be bright red. Now red covers nearly as badly as yellow, but I have an equal trick, and that is to mix in some brown. I've just got a light brown mixed in. I feel like I talk about the yellow and red and underpainting quite a lot. It's probably because every time I do a commissar, I have to mention it. And given that my biggest project recently, my biggest project in terms of videos anyway, that's it is the Gaunt's Ghosts, and they have quite a few commissars. So I end up saying, ah yes, to paint yellow, you paint pink underneath, and to paint red, you paint brown underneath, and it makes it good. Whilst I actually have the brown out, this drive belt here may as well be brown. And I've got some previous brown I can mix it in with. Is that an interesting colour? I don't think it is. I think I want that to be a much darker. Not as often as you mentioned chamfer during your 3D printed streams. I do mention chamfers a lot. I've been working on some 3D printing projects. My last one has 1 billion fillets on it, and I realized just at the end, it's like, hang on, I can put a chamfer here instead of a fillet. Look, I like chamfers, okay? I'm old fashioned. That's probably enough time for the red brown. So let's go in for layer the second. And this time just the red. And what we should see is that this red goes on much better than it would by itself. It might need a third layer, but that's okay. I have strangely been doing a lot of red recently. Once I've done this, remind me and I'll dig out the other model with a lot of red that I've been painting. I mean, other than the commissar, which is obviously red and yellow on the commissar every single time. Have I published Commissar Lud video? I think I have. Because that's a relatively recent. Project painting. Oh no! Oh no, I stuck my thumb on the pipe and now it's wiped the paint off. Oh no. Even though this brush is not quite behaving as good as it should, it is not behaving as bad as it was last week. And so it helps. I guess I'll just I'll give it another soak, another round of IPA, not IPA. Actually, I think this is an IPA based cleaner. Foxmate says, yes, I have posted. Yes, okay. So LUD's up. Which means that my next video is masking tape. So the masking tape follow-on, which I also have in front of me, and I can show you that in a moment. I just said nice things about this brush, and now it's betraying me. Rule 1, never be nice to a brush. Wait, which way is up? This way is up. So if I give this a third layer on the top and not on the bottom, then it's almost like a highlight. Or a shadow, depending on which way you look at it. Cool, we'll give that a minute to dry and I will grab out those models. So this is the one with the red on it. One of my bolt action models with a great big flag. Interestingly, both the cloak here and this flag is made out of a pie tin. This was one of the recommendations following on from the masking tape kind of improvised cloaks, rather than sculpting it, rather than buying a resin one or stuff like that. Go for the old crafting techniques, and someone suggested tin, like a thick tin foil, not the normal kitchen tin foil, but a thick kitchen foil like you get with a pie tin, and that came out fairly nicely. It's pretty strong, it's pretty tough, it takes paint, and with not too much difficulty you can shape it and cut it for various things. So that's, as a cloak, I added in a little bit of extra, kind of when I was cutting off one of the sides, I added that back in as a hood, and that looks as good as any of my other Tanith models. Maybe the detail of the folds aren't quite as nice, but with the camo pattern on, sort of doesn't matter. But yeah, that is this week's video. I need to sort out some last few things and get it uploaded. Okay, that's looking good. Next pipe. Should we just get the big ones out of the way, or should we? What other colours can I do pipes? Because that's red, yellow, blue. The whole thing, the whole mech is green. So green pipes kind of will disappear. Black, brown, grey, orange, not really. Let's do this little one in red, because this looks like, let's not have quite so much water in the paint. Foxmit says neon green. Unfortunately, I do not have a neon green paint. I wonder if there's a way, I mean of course there is, but to paint fluorescent style without actually having a fluorescent paint. I wonder how that works. Kind of similarly to like non-metallic metal or object source lighting, where you're painting in a way that alludes to a certain real-world effect without it actually being that effect. It's always been very interesting to look at those styles of painting. Yeah, one thing that I'm not necessarily like massively upset about, but I would just have preferred to have this in separate pieces rather than all glued together, so that I could reach all of these difficult bits. Because you end up spending a lot less time painting in sub-assemblies. So one of the things that kind of one of the misunderstandings I think of sub-assemblies, people often say that painting in one piece is quicker, and I have found the opposite to be true. Because you spend a lot of time reaching around stuff and trying to get into places and making the decision to actually, let's not paint that bit, that's fine, we can leave that, and that spends a lot of time. Okay, that's another blue cable done. Let's get another yellow to match. keep knocking that loose cable with my fingers, and it's going to come off eventually, I'm sure of it. I mean, we might get lucky, it might make it to the end of the stream and I'll super glue it back into place. Super glue is probably not going to be strong enough. I'll have to scrape it and cement it in. Okay, that's the pink done. Layer 2 for yellow. Okay, I may have watered this down a bit too much. No, it's managing. It's managing. Yeah, I've got a lot of water in the brush because of the kitchen towel being wet. Usually I dry off constantly. Dry off the brush constantly. Foxymit says, surprised you haven't pulled the cables off to put actual real ones in. I mean I could. Not going to. I mean, small scale pneumatics like this is kind of extremely easy to do. If you're okay having it like manually operated, then just an air system, a cylinder at one end, cylinder at the other end, and an airtight pipe. And then these would actually be real pneumatic pipes. It's weird that pneumatics are called pneumatics, which makes sense. But the same technology, if you instead of putting air in the pipe, you put oil in the pipe, it's called hydraulics. And hydro being water. Because it would originally have been water, and when they realised that oil does the job better because oil has less compressibility, or if you pick the right types of oil, it also leaks less. And it transfers forces faster. That's watered down too much. Yep, way too much water in that paint. So the only solution is to add more paint to the water. That was my shoulder clicking. I'm not sure if you heard that. It was quite loud. Yeah, this is the front. This section of pipe is probably not all that visible. I don't have to worry about it all so very much. I'll give it at least one coat. But if it looks a little darker, that's probably a good thing because it's in shadow of the rest of the machine. Let's see how that looks. There's still a couple more cables to do, but just kind of with it fitted. That really is a close-up. See if I just lay it down on its side. Yeah, little splashes of colour. That's pretty good. Sort of what I was after. Yeah, I think that'll do most of it. Right, going to need to get some more red and brown out for this other larger cable. Oh, and that little one from before, that fuel line that we never went back to. Given that they're only attached in one place, the cables end up being just a little bit springy. which isn't a big deal. Just have to be a little careful when painting so that you don't knock it around and smear paint in the kind of way you don't want it. Kind of like that. That was rubbish. This is one of the this little one's one of the pipes that kind of hidden amongst amongst the armor panels. Yeah, it's pretty good red pretty much straight away with that kind of brown and red mix for the first layer and then just straight red for the second layer. I have tried doing it that way for the yellow as well. So kind of the first layer is a mix of yellow and pink and the second layer is just yellow. But it doesn't quite come out as smooth as if you do it in two separate layers. Kind of a pure pink layer and a pure yellow layer. That might just be the specific paints that I have. That might be a kind of just how it works for all paints. See, another thing is mold lines. Because I did go around and clean up a bunch of the mold lines. But because the model was pre-assembled, it's very difficult to notice everything. Now this one doesn't matter because this one's I'm pretty sure this one's the one that's hidden underneath the armor, kind of the shoulder joint. As a complete aside, my wet palette has been discontinued. So when I break this one, which I inevitably will, I will have to come up with a new idea. So this is of course the Ferrero Rocher brand wet palette. Where's the lid? There you go. If you don't recognise it, it's the 12 pack 12 pack, 15 pack, 15 pack. And to reduce the amount of plastic packaging, Ferrero Rocher have changed it from this nice plastic container into a card container, which is a good change. But it does mean that probably one of the most popular wet palettes at the moment will no longer be sold. I have some ideas for some newer versions. Didn't know they were changing the packaging. A lot of companies are changing packaging to reduce plastics, or to reduce the use of plastics. That's a lot of colour we've managed to add. Are there any cables left? Well, there's this one that's kind of dodgy and broken. Ah, there is actually another one back here as well. That one should probably be red, because I think that is a... No, it's not a hydraulic. Huh. It's just a Alright, where's the other one? The other one's here. That's for probably the actuator for the trigger for these shooters. I don't know why I'm worrying so much about color coding this, because orcs wouldn't. Orcs don't care about color coding stuff. Tell you what, let's hazard strike one. Grab another spot of pink. And also some more yellow. That did not go on very well, but whatever. It's fine. I'm sure it's fine. Probably fine. Let's go for tar black. If I can open it, that is. Don't want that much added water, thank you very much. Okay, that's even more water than I thought I was. Close enough. Considering adding some glyphs at various points, which I happen to have open here. Let's try not to knock the camera as much. The mechanic symbol is a spanner, so that would be a nice one to throw on. Throw that on as white. And hey, I get to say a different one because white also can have very poor coverage, but if you start with grey, which doesn't always have good coverage but often better than the white, where's my reference? Yeah. I say that grey has better coverage than white, and then it hasn't. It very much has not. Is there anything else that I can do while that dries? Right, let's see how this behaves. There you go. A spanner so that the mech boy knows where to start working. Is there one for fuel? I don't know if there is. Yeah, I don't see one. Oh. How about a glyph for the kind of right at the front here? There's one that's called Gubbins, which is like a big cog. That actually back on this side might be fun. But I'm looking for some like stabby kind of thing. No, I'm seeing a lot of the explosives and guns ones, but not any choppy ones. I guess Snick is the only one that's really relevant. No, I guess, yeah, we can do Snick. Helps if I don't drop it. And it helps if I don't literally just stick my thumb exactly over where I've just painted this. It's not totally obliterated. There you go. Snick. Which is appropriate. What other details can we add to this? We've still got a fair amount of time left. I think this can here looks like it's an oiler of some type, so might just pick it out with a different color. And just try to get a slightly lighter colour on the top. I'm not doing a lot of effort when it comes to highlighting, because good grief, highlighting this thing is going to take forever. Wasn't there a... Yeah, this drive belt. We never decided on the drive belt. Hopefully you can see all this, 'cause it's kind of reaching into the darkness to an extent. It's also on the underneath, so it doesn't matter too much. This is almost certainly going to be the best painted thing in my Ork army by a long way. Because I haven't painted any Orks since I kind of first started. That's not true. I did paint some Orks a year and a half ago. What else should we do? Open question to the chat. What's next? What other details do we need? Given that it sits like that, this is pretty much the angle that you're mostly going to see it from. Maybe a bit like that. It needs damage. It looks too clean and perfect, says Foxynuts, who is quite correct. Now, short of drilling and filing, which I'm not going to be doing today, if I grab my metallics out, we can put a few scratches on it at least. Hey, Grandpa Werewolf. Snowstorm here. But you made it to Das Stompa. Excellent. Trying to get the impression that the kind of this spinning blade has picked up stuff and is chucking it back and ripping the paint off of back here. Sort of what that looks like. I think some physical cutting is required to make that really sell, but I will not do that today. One thing to get some really bright silver lines coming in from the distance here, kind of show that it's been moving. I think what I actually need to do is bring back some of the darker metallic on the other side to really sell that. Should also have kind of a ring of oil, kind of wherever the furthest point of travel of the piston is. Generally speaking, with pistons like this, it will scrape and scratch and leave oil behind, but the point, kind of the ring around where it goes, it goes to its furthest movement. There's commonly a ring there where the oil's been pushed to that point, but it hasn't been pushed any further. So let's get darker metallic. Which is leaking from the pot even before I put the lid on, or took the lid off rather. That kind of doesn't look, I mean, it sort of looks on camera like I wanted it to, but doesn't really look it in real life. Maybe I need to add in some black to really darken this. Not with that much water, I don't. That's a bit better. That's getting there. So the idea is that this part of the piston is where the cylinder. This is the cylinder. This is the piston. The piston goes into the cylinder up to this point, and so all of the oil and dirt is scraped up to here. But it doesn't often go past this point, and so you end up with this ring, and it's obviously much darker because this has been scratched clean to bare metal, whereas this has corrosion and oil. I realise that this cylinder, this cylinder at the back, does not have any green on it. Grandpa Werewolf says, like the blue and yellow cables. Yes, it's green stuff. Even though all of the modelling clay on this is Milliput and not green stuff, it's still funny. As we've got all this silver, we can give it a few more scratches and edge highlights. So what's everyone working on at home? Fun stuff? Foxy Mitts is knitting scarves for polar bears. Are the polar bears also knitted? Or have you somehow managed to fit a polar bear in between all of your spiders? Grandpa Werewolf is working on a Tau Riptide. Which one's the Riptide? It's not one of the battle suits, isn't it? Or is it? See, given my recent work on a jet bike racing game, I've been looking at a whole bunch of options for jet bikes that I can use as the racers. Pretty sure I did a live stream on the Enforcers, the Mantic. Was it Dead Zone Enforcers, I think? Because they were cool models. From 40k, I've already got Ork Deathcopters. I've got an Eldar Viper with some missing bits. And yeah, the Tau Piranha. That's the one. The Piranha. Kinda looks cool. Games Workshop plastic model battle suit. Okay, it is a battle suit. I don't know these things. I don't play Tau. I mean, I don't even play 40k anymore. Foxy Smith says there are little polar bears fitted in between various projects. Excellent. Polar bears and scarves for polar bears. Or, to use an older meme, polar bears and polar bear accessories. I would ask how many out there are old enough to remember that reference, but I don't even remember that reference because I never watched it. I just know the meme. In the time-honoured tradition of Darmok, I talk in memes as my primary language. Now there's a reference. Fond of the Piranhas, Riptide is heavy sport, 250 points. I don't get the reference. Foxy Mitts does not get the King of the Hill reference. I hope you got the Star Trek reference. You better get the Star Trek reference. If not, there's homework for you. here, I want to do a little better than the just plain metallics that are on it. So if I can throw in a little bit of black, kind of similar to how I've done with the oil. If I can just get like darken where it should be dark. Grandpa Wolf, 40k becoming unplayable. I mean, long since unplayable. Games Workshop refuse to be consistent. They keep bringing out updates, endless updates, that every single one makes it worse to play. It's like, I'm surprised that people are still playing the game in as numbers as they do. Waited for the new codex, which is already nerfed by battle update. References Star Trek Next Generation, Picard on the Campfire Planet. Yes, good. Yeah, I've kind of jumped from 3rd edition, and then as I got back into mini painting, it was already like right at the tail end of 8th. I think I was aware of 8th edition starting because there are a lot of people like talking about it and whatever, but I didn't actually look at 40k until 8th was pretty much over. And with 9th, it's such a convoluted game. Playing the same size battle, let's assume that you played a 40k game of 3rd edition and 9th edition at the same points cost. Your 9th edition game is going to take probably 4 times as long. However, in addition to being 4 times as complex and convoluted, it's also the standard points cost for games has doubled. Kind of 3rd edition standard points was 1,000. Now a standard points cost is 2,000. Like, why? Other than pushing to sell more models, the game is horribly balanced at 2,000 points. I mean, the game is horribly balanced at any points cost, but it's particularly poorly balanced at higher points games. Yeah, it's a little better. It's a little more visual interest on it. Let's have another look at it partially assembled, or at least kind of held in place. Yeah. I could probably hold it up to this camera, although you can't really see the colours that well on that camera. But if I kind of try and show it to this camera, you just get that view. Hang on, what I'll do. There we go. That fits pretty well, actually, I think. It certainly needs some more detail, some more battle damage. A grot hanging off for dear life. But all that will come later. For now, I think that's sort of done. And so, if I remember where I put my polystyrene cement, which I assume is back there. Excuse me for a moment. So we can glue on this arm, but then after that we can start looking at this, which is the gun arm that goes on this side. And as you can see, it's been primed in black and dry brushed with metallics. So there is a long way to go here. Okay. So what are the contact points? We've got the main joint, we've got that which broke, that and that. Okay. Actually, should I paint some more of inside here first? How much of that is going to be visible? None of it really. Yeah, like I can get to that, that's no problem if I want to change that. But this, yeah, you can't see anything, so that's fine. I think we might see a similar issue with the Supermarine Spitfire I painted recently, in that this poly cement, the Humbrol, the Humbrol poly cement takes a lot longer to evaporate than I'm used to with the Revell poly cement. Now what I might be able to do, because I have some hair ties down here, that worked surprisingly well. It has hijacked my brush though. Should probably switch the brush over. Yeah, I'll do. Right, we can leave that for a bit. In fact, I can probably leave that for a while, because I don't need this brush in a hurry. supposed to be there. Alright, that can just pop off to the side of the screen, hugging a paintbrush in its armpit as it is currently. And would you look at that, we can have a look at the gun arm. I thought this whole stream would be that. I mean, it nearly is. We've got 15 minutes left, so we can at least make a start. But where do I start? I guess I just green panel. I get a whole bunch of green panels started. Headbutting the camera, punching the microphone. Be knocking over the lights next. I'm pretty sure I've knocked over lights on stream. I've definitely knocked it over when recording. Although I have altered the balance of my of this light and the camera held on the same stand, and I've adjusted the balance of that, so it's a lot harder to knock over than it has been. That doesn't mean that it's not impossible to knock it over, because it absolutely is still possible to knock it over. What do we think for the gun casings? Kind of barrel shrouds, this one and this one. Given that this is a great big cannon, a yellow would be thematic, as yellow is the colour of big explosions and expensive upgrades and stuff. The kind of multi-barrel, the short one, maybe just red to make it shoot faster. I need to work out a decent green glaze. Or rather, how to do a decent glaze with green. Because the vehicles I've done with like dry brush metallic and then glaze red works really nicely, and part of that is because I have a red that glazes very nicely. I've tried to glaze with this green and it's not quite as smooth to glaze with this green. Kind of need multiple layers and then you nearly get to the point where you lose the glaze effect. Grandpa Werewolf says, yellow and red sounds good. Have only painted a few goths, so are these colours after green, black and silver? This is not a clan aligned Stompa, so all colours are welcome here. I mean, saying that, even if you have a clan, like, you would still include some of the other colours. It's kind of odd to see, like, some of the particularly Bad Moon's armies, and it's just a sea of yellow, and it's like, but is that what the Orcs would do? Like, yeah, I get it. Bad Moons are going to have predominant yellow as in their colouring, but is yellow going to be the only colour other than the skin of the Orcs themselves? Not really. Yeah, ED-SKaR's warband is not a single clan warband, never has been. And so a mix of colours is quite appropriate. And that's actually why the Stompa is green. Because green represents orkiness in general. Whereas like a Bad Moon's Stompa might be quite yellow. Freebooters, would they even have a Stompa? I mean, they would have a Stompa at some point, but would freebooter mobs commonly have Stompas? Snakebites probably wouldn't have a Stompa just because it's not their style. Oh man, that's the most fantastic idea. I want a Snakebites Stompa. Can you imagine a Snakebite Stompa? That would be absolutely hilarious. It would be pulled by a like sleigh team of those. Oh, what are the shark squigs? Those great big ones that the bee snaggers? Is that the new kind of pseudo vehicle that's being pulled by a shark squig? Just imagine like a team of 6 shark squigs pulling a Stompa, like just an absurdly enormous chariot. And it's got like a catapult on its back. Yeah. That's fantastic. Rainbow Stompa. Yeah, I mean, yeah, a little bit. Do I even need to paint the underneath of this? Given that it's going to sit like that. Do I need to paint that side when it's never gonna be seen? That track keeps doing that. I need to delete it. What is it? Free Me, apparently. It just ends halfway through, and then there's just like a full minutes of silence at the end. Snakebite Stompa sounds like cowboy talk, but those shark squigs and a catapult, yes, absolutely. Oh, and it'd have a Weird Boy tower. Yeah, of course it would. Of course it would have a Weird Boy tower. I mean, it would still be covered in various big shooters and cannon and all the rest of it. And it would still have servos for some parts of its mechanism. But it would just generally be, on average, lower tech than like this version of a Stompa. But yeah, Weird Boy tower sticking out the back, catapult on like on a little platform off one side, shark squigs, like a team of 6 massive shark squigs pulling it. Yeah. What do we got? Alright, we're nearly at the 9 o'clock point. So I'll probably roll up the stream in a couple of minutes. So if anyone has any final questions for me for today, ask them in the chat and I'll try to answer them before we end the stream. The inside of ancient tombs were painted, and they weren't supposed to be seen. You pays your money, you takes your chances, and only one Weird Boy tower? There's a reference there that I'm not getting. If you put 2 Weird Boy towers next to each other, would they just make each other explode? Would they add each other's power? Or would they explode? You bought your model, you decide. Hopefully the 2 towers could do both. Yes, they add to each other's power and explode. Obviously are Obviously that's the correct answer. Yeah. Well, my brush has run out of paint. I've at least got started. There's a few spots of green. Next time we do a live stream on this, we will probably have a decent shot of finishing off this arm as well and being able to glue the whole model together, which would be really interesting. And we'll be pretty much at the point where I can say it's done for the first layer of doneness, where it's actually a complete painted model. But then, like I said, I'm going to be adding bits, cutting away, adding a belly gun. I need to add its face because the face was missing. Have an orc sticking up out the top, having grots all falling off of it. Plenty to do, but yeah, the first stage of doneness might be the next stream. It won't be next week because next week I will be doing. I have some order markers, order die markers for bolt action that I need to do. I might paint them up during the week rather than leaving it till next week for the stream. And of course I have other models as well that I can pick out. We'll find something interesting regardless, whatever it would be. But for today, that's everything. We've kind of finished up the arm like I had hoped, and we've started on the next one. So thank you to Foxymits and Grandpa Werewolf and anyone else in the stream as well. I have a video on the tin cloak that I showed off earlier. That's coming on Saturday. And yes, there will be a stream next week on whatever it is that I decide to do. So thank you very much for watching. I'm ED-SKaR, and I always will be.